On today's show, forget about the Houston Rockets loss to the Brooklyn Nets. That game didn't matter anyways. It sucked. What we're going to talk about is the trade that shocked the NBA world. Luka Doncic being traded to the Los Angeles Lakers for Anthony Davis. What in the hell is going on? How it impacts Houston, how it actually helps the Rockets. We're going to talk about it all on today's Locked On Rockets.
This is Mission Control, Houston.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The alternate timeline that we live in keeps getting weirder and weirder and weirder as Luka Doncic has just been traded to the Los Angeles Lakers for Anthony Davis. What in the hell is going on in the NBA? What's up and welcome to another edition of Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. As always, I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, native Houstonian and credentialed media member. I'm also the host of Locked On NBA Thursdays. Be sure to follow along wherever you listen to your podcasts or on YouTube. Just search Locked On Rockets, where the best way you can help us grow our show is to listen every single day on a podcast platform of your choosing. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Drop us a comment while you're there. I want your thoughts on the Luka Doncic trade because this is like this is literally the craziest trade possibly in NBA history for a bunch of different reasons. We're going to get into all of them on today's show, or just do a drive-by, say go Rockets, or, you know, F the Mavs or whatever. Actually, no, I feel kind of sympathetic to the Mavs. This whole situation sucks for them. We'll get into all this. Also, subscribe to our daily Locked On Rockets newsletter. Would sincerely appreciate that. Now, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off of your first purchase. And as always, thanks so much for making Locked On Rockets part of your day every single day, whether it's on your way to work, on your lunch break, in the gym. Thank you so much for being an everydayer. All right, so there's a bunch of different things that I want to discuss with this trade. And you might be sitting there wondering, Jackson, this is a Rockets podcast. Why are you talking? This trade has wide sweeping ramifications for the entirety of the NBA, and it actually has a direct impact on the future of the Houston Rockets. We're going to get there in just a second. But let me just walk through the baseline of this trade, because essentially this trade came out of nowhere. Nico Harrison, the Mavs GM, was operating in the shadows. There was no, literally all 28 other general managers in the association, outside of Pelinka for the Lakers and then Nico Harrison for the Mavericks. Nobody had any idea this was coming. Luka didn't know it was coming. Anthony Davis didn't know it was coming. LeBron didn't know it was coming. Nobody on the rosters knew it was coming. This came out of nowhere. We'll get into the specifics and all sorts of the, why this trade happened and what the reasoning is and how awful of a trade it is for the Mavericks in a moment. But the baseline of the trade is as follows. The Lakers are receiving Luka Doncic, Maxi Kleber, and Markieff Morris. The Mavericks are getting Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a 2029 Lakers first-round pick. And then the Jazz are operating as a third-team facilitator. They receive Jalen Hood-Schifino and a couple of second-round picks. I think one is coming from the Lakers, and that's the 2025 Clippers second, and then the 2025 Mavs second is coming from Dallas, or maybe they're both from Dallas. That might have that one mixed up. But either way, the Jazz come away with a couple second-round picks. So that's the framework of the trade. Holy crap. The fact that the Dallas Mavericks just traded a legitimate superstar in his prime for pennies on the dollar is absolutely absurd. This is, without a doubt, the worst trade in NBA history. It might be the worst trade across all of professional sports by the time it's said and done. And we're going to get into the whys and the hows and the what, how we got here, and we'll even dabble in some conspiracy theory stuff a little bit later on. But the most important thing as it relates to Rocket fans right now, if you're a fan of the Houston Rockets, and you probably are if you're listening to this podcast, is that the Houston Rockets own the right to potentially receive or swap the Dallas Mavericks first-round pick in 2029. That is huge. The Rockets received this pick back from the Brooklyn Nets as a result of their trade with Brooklyn in acquiring all of Phoenix's future draft capital. And that trade, just every single passing day, looks better and better and better. Kudos to Rafael Stone. Kudos to the Houston Rockets front office, because the fact that they have access to that pick, where at that point in time, The Mavericks' new star duo is no longer Luka and Kyrie. It's Kyrie Irving and Anthony Davis, of whom Kyrie Irving will be turning 37 years old that season, and Anthony Davis will be turning 36, assuming they're even still in Dallas at that point, because Anthony Davis didn't sign up to be traded to Dallas. Kyrie Irving, when he re-signed his contract, he re-signed to play alongside Luka Doncic. Klay Thompson, who just signed a brand new deal, signed to play with Luka in Dallas. So this entire situation for the Dallas Mavericks is like poised to explode in the most spectacular of fashions. And for the Rockets to be sitting there with the ability to own the Mavericks pick outright in 2029, when they are very much at the tail end of whatever this new look era of Dallas Mavericks basketball will be, that is an incredible position to be in. And the value of that 2029 Mavericks first just shot through the absolute roof. The only other pick that might be, like, I won't go so far as to say, there's a bunch of picks with a ton of value out there on the market. Case in point being the 2031 unprotected first that Phoenix just sent to Utah. Like, that is a very, very juicy pick, but I would put this Dallas Mavericks 2029 first all the way up there alongside some of the absolute best first round picks across the entire NBA landscape. So the Rockets are in a fantastic position to reap the benefits and rewards of whatever is more than likely to be a pretty heinous, ugly outcome from whatever it is that Nico Harrison is trying to cook up in Dallas right now, because it makes absolutely no sense. It's completely wild. Yeah, I still can't wrap my head around it. Like, I'm trying to, and there's only a few outcomes that I can come up with that make even a remote lick of sense. Go, and you know what? Go show our friends over at Locked on Mavs some love. They're really going through it right now. Like, I know that it's usually like, F Dallas for everything, but at the same time, I'm kind of sitting here like, if the Rockets had traded away James Harden in his prime, like immediately after, the 14-15 season where he took them to the Western Conference Finals and went up, head to head with the eventual champion Warriors, and was, fell behind at Steph Curry and MVP. Like, if the Rockets had traded James Harden right then and there for, I can't even think of a proper I don't know, Drew Holiday. Like, I can't even come up with a comp that makes even a remote lick of sense. Like, I would have been inconsolable. There are Mavs fans who are like threatening to go down to the arena and like burn their Luka jerseys in front of the stadium. Like, Nico Harrison in one fell swoop alienated the entire Slovenian fan base of Mavs fans, and they're all now flocking to the Lakers, understandably so, to follow Luka. But then he also alienated and ruined the trust with diehard Mavs fans who have been fans of the organization that literally their entire lives. Like, my heart goes out to Mavs fans, honestly, at this point. And I know I've seen with online discourse and everything, it seems like there are a lot of Mavs fans who are looking for, a quote unquote new home to a new team to cheer for. And I'll be the first to say, look, Houston Rockets fans, we should welcome Mavs fans with open arms. If they're looking to jump ship, if they're looking to bandwagon for a new team because they cannot trust their organization anymore, because this is easily one of the most ridiculous, insane, horrid trades in NBA history, to abandon your star player that just dragged your team to the finals, battled through blood, sweat, injury, all that, to get to literally took the Mavs to the finals on one leg last season, mind you. And to have the gall in the aftermath to talk about concerns about his conditioning and all this, like, Mavs fans, if you're looking for a new team, Rockets, Houston, we're right down I-45. I know there's an I-45 rivalry. It's been there for a long time, but Rockets are on the come up. Take all the fans we can get. So I'm extending that open invite. Come hang out with the Rockets. We got a good group over here. With that, I do want to get into some of the specifics from this trade, some of the rumors, the speculation, why it feels like this trade happened, how it happened, just all of it. We're going to unpack all of it, and then we'll take we'll zoom out and take a look at the league-wide ramifications and impact the futures of both the Mavs, the Lakers, how some of that does relate back to the Houston Rockets. We're going to get there in just one moment. First, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Looking to buy tickets to your next big event, whether it's a concert, a comedy show, or a sports game, finding the right ticket at the right price can be a bit of a headache sometimes. But with Game Time Picks, it's never been easier. Let me tell you how it works. With Game Time Picks, the app does all of the hard work for you. It curates the best deals, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of ticketing offers. I've been using Game Time Picks for a while now, and here's why I love it. The curated deals make it so simple to find great tickets at a great price. No more sifting through so many just endless options, right? Recently checked out the super deal. It was awesome. Couldn't believe the value. And the seat view feature is a total game changer, right? You can know exactly what to expect when you arrive at the venue, whether it's a concert, the place you've never been to, or if you're checking out a new stadium, maybe you're visiting, checking out the Rockets in another city. It's awesome. The best part, you're covered with Game Time's lowest price guarantee. If you find a better deal somewhere else, they'll refund 110% of the difference. Plus, your tickets are guaranteed to be delivered on time with easy cancellation options if something comes up. Take the guesswork out of buying your tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And continuing on here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. All right, let's try to navigate a little bit more about what in the hell just happened with this trade and how it's going to impact the rest of the league. So first and foremost, Luka did not request a trade. Like, that's the other insane part of this, is at no point did Luka request a trade. And organizations literally spend sometimes, decades at a time, 10, 20, 30, 40 years trying to find a player even remotely as close to Luka's caliber, right? This is a guy who has a chance to be, without, this is no hyperbole here, right? Has an opportunity to be one of the best, legitimately best all-time greats to have ever laced him up, to have ever played the game of basketball when it's all said and done. He's been that good through the early start of his career. And when you find a player like that, when you get one of the top 10, top 5 players in the association, legitimately a year in, year out MVP caliber player, you hold on to them until the very bitter end. You hold on to him until that player literally looks you in the face and says, I will not wear that jersey. I will not step foot on that court. Trade me. I am gone. I will, once the trade demand is in, fine. Your hands are tied. You start the bidding war and you figure things out. And that's the crazy thing, is the Mavericks didn't even entertain the idea of starting a bidding war for Luka Doncic. They even, Nico Harrison in his immediate, press conference and press briefings and talking about everything, they highlight so many different, pseudo concerns, the conditioning issue with Luka and the injury concerns and all that with his future and the looming supermax contract that he's in line for, next summer and all this stuff. Who cares? That's what those guys are worth. You pay those guys that money. And to me, the wildest thing in all this is Nico Harrison's commentary about defense winning championships. And what did he say? He said this specifically from Tim McMahon. Nico Harrison said, I believe that defense wins championships. I believe that getting an all-defensive center and an all-NBA player with a defensive mindset gives us a better chance. We're built to win now and in the future. And then later, he had a follow-up quote to that basically said, for him, the future isn't 10 years down the line. The future is 3 to 4 years down the line. And this just screams absolute short-sightedness from Nico Harrison. Nico has done a decent job with the Mavericks up to this point. They made some great deals at the deadline last year, scooping up Gafford and PJ Washington and kind of transforming the Mavericks. And then, they drafted Derek Lively, and he's been a sensation since coming to the NBA. And they've done a lot of good with that Mavs roster, trading for Kyrie, which everybody thought was insane at the time that they did it. And then he re-signed, and Kyrie and Luka up to this point had been an incredible duo and literally just took the Mavericks to the finals. So it's hard for me to wrap my head around the fact that he just, decided to abandon ship all of a sudden. And it kind of points to, I guess, a few potential outcomes here. And shout out to Locked on Mavs, my haircut brother over there, Nick Angstedt, for kind of breaking this down. And it feels like it comes down to 3 things, right? Either that Nico is the worst GM to have ever GM'd in his life, which doesn't make sense because there's a track record of Nico Harrison being a good GM. Then it comes down to maybe the Luka injury situation is way worse than anybody actually knows so far. Maybe the Mavs have like inside intel and like Luka is just done for. Like he'll never play more than 40 games in a regular season again. He'll constantly be in and out of the lineup. He'll never be healthy for another postseason run. The weight is an issue. The lingering leg injury is an issue, like all this stuff, right? And if that's the case, then this move is at least somewhat defensible, but it's still not, because if you are operating under the assumption that like Luka is like severely injured, right? Like we're talking like Embiid level, Kawhi level, never potentially going to play another game in his career, always playing half seasons and load management, all that stuff. It's really hard to build an entire team around a guy like that. We're seeing that play out right now in Philadelphia and why the Sixers are struggling so much without Embiid. And we've seen that in the past with Kawhi-led teams when he's not available, when he's not around. So if that's the case, you still could have created a bidding war for Luka. You still could have gone out there and, hell, I'm sure the Rockets would have been interested, right? The Rockets have a ton of assets. The Spurs absolutely would have been knocking on Dallas's door, and they would have put forth a ton of, a trade package centered around Stephon Castle and Devin Vassell and a bunch of future firsts, and maybe the Thunder getting involved, right? With Jalen Williams and a bunch of future firsts. Like there's a ton of teams that would have absolutely lined up to pay through the nose to get a guy like Luka, even if there were question marks about his health and his future and his sustainability, being able to stick on the basketball court. And then to make the argument that they wanted, right, because it seems like the whole angle from the Mavs side of things is they wanted to continue to be competitive right now. Yeah, Anthony Davis is probably the best player that you could get for Luka in more or less of a straight-up swap right now, but you're also getting no future draft capital back. Like this Mavs team, the future of this Mavs team is incredibly bleak at this point. And when you trade a player like a Luka, you should own an entire team's draft capital for like the next decade. And then some. Like if you're trading with a team that has their own draft capital and like capital from other teams like the Thunder or the Spurs or the Jazz, then you should absolutely have like 8+ first-round picks to be talking about for the foreseeable future. And instead, the Mavs get, yes, an all-NBA caliber player in Anthony Davis who will keep them competitive this season. And this new look Mavs is going to be a really interesting dynamic. Like, we'll talk about that in the third segment, as well as the new look Lakers. But it just feels like a complete and utter failing of what is in the best interest of the organization. This felt like a move to me that Nico Harrison made in order to keep his job in the immediate here and now, because if you trade a guy like Luka and you get back that draft haul, maybe a young star or whatever, yeah, you're going to take a bit of a step back in the immediate here and now. You're going to be not, but the Mavs to me would be in a much better place if they had traded for J-Dub from the Thunder. Now, maybe the Thunder wouldn't have wanted any part of that, right? Maybe Luka and Shea couldn't coexist because they both want the ball in their hands. Who knows? But this whole situation is just absolutely insane. Major concerns about Luka. They didn't know about it. Yeah, like I'm just trying to make sure I tackle all the different angles from this one. And one of the biggest ones too is I'm not usually like a tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist kind of guy, usually. But this trade just reeks of like potential collusion or something here, because the Adelson family just bought the Mavs from Mark Cuban, and they've made their billionaire fortune in like gambling and casinos and stuff, and they're on the docket as trying to build a new casino, build a new arena in Dallas with like a whole casino attached if gambling gets approved in the state of Texas. So that's all kind of up in the air, TBD. And then you factor in the fact that the NBA desperately wants a team in Las Vegas. You've got the Adelsons who have a gambling background and who would love to put a team in Las Vegas and have a bunch of casinos and gambling money funneled into said property. And then also adding in, NBA viewership and ratings are down, and the Lakers are at the forefront of everything. And yes, they've still got LeBron. Well, they had LeBron and AD, but they were very clearly staring down the barrel of a very, very dark future with no future capital, no room to improve the roster, nothing, right? And now the Lakers, assuming Luka can actually be healthy and stay on the basketball court, have their franchise cornerstone for the next 10 plus years. Like, the Lakers are about to be relevant and have all of Slovenia tuning in for their games every single night for the next 10 plus years. And Luka is a worldwide superstar, right? He's insanely popular all across Europe. He's insanely popular globally. He has that kind of reach. And to be able to manufacture and put him on literally the most popular team in the entire NBA, that is going to have wide sweeping impact and benefits for the NBA, for its viewership, for all those things. So I don't want to sit here and yell, collusion, conspiracy, but it just feels really icky. And to top it all off, Nico Harrison is a guy that worked very closely with Rob Pelinka back when he was Kobe Bryant's agent, when Kobe was still playing, and Nico was with Nike, and just their relationship. That Nico and Rob Pelinka go way, 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 way back. So I still can't wrap my head around this. Very few people can wrap their heads around this. I want your thoughts. Why do you think we got to this point? What happened? Is there maybe something bigger coming out later on? Is Luka lying? Did he not want to be in Dallas? Was he going to turn down the Supermax deal? Did they just not want to pay him all that money? And, are the Adelsons just trying to angle to move the Dallas Mavericks to Las Vegas? I don't know, man. It's all an absolute mess. But coming up, I do want to talk about the Mavs and the Lakers' futures, couple league-wide impact kind of things. We'll circle it back to the Rockets a little bit as well. We're going to get there in just one moment. First, today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Basketball season is in full swing, and there's no better way to get in on the action than with Prize Picks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With over 10 million members and billions in awarded winnings, Prize Picks makes it so easy and fun to turn your sports knowledge into real money. Here's how it works. Just pick more or less on at least two players' projections, and if you're right, you could win up to 1,000 times your cash. This week, I'm keeping it so simple. I'm looking at how many points Jalen Green's going to score against the Knicks, against the Nets, and how many rebounds Amin Thompson is going to walk away with. Again, it's so easy. You just pick more or less on whichever way you think those two guys will ultimately go. Prize Picks keeps it so simple. You can set your starting lineup in less than 60 seconds, and their fast, secure withdrawals mean you get paid quickly when you win. Plus, their Taco Tuesday promo gives you discounted player projections for even more value. Check out the promos tab for all sorts of exciting opportunities. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. And final segment here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast, home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. I've been trying to truck through this episode, and I completely whiffed on one thing that I want to talk about so early on. This trade was so absolutely insane that when Shams tweeted it, literally the collective basketball world froze, and everybody thought that Shams had been hacked. That's how crazy this trade was. This trade was like some NBA 2K computer simulated offer that you look at and you're like, what the hell? Like the Lakers simmed up an offer and they were like, hey, we'll send you Anthony Davis and a future first for Luka. And then Nico Harrison was like, yeah, that seems like a good deal. Only the messed up part is the Mavs were the one that offered it. The Mavs went to the Lakers and were like, hey, we want to get rid of Luka. And the Lakers take it, whatever you want. Just give us Luka. We don't care. And they were, but we didn't hear what we asked for. No, just take him. Just whatever you want. Give us Luka, and you can have anybody on the roster. My God. Shams literally had to follow it up with a tweet that said, yes, this is real, and then break it down. And even then, people were confused. People were like, no way. This is exactly what a hacker would say. A hacker would come back and be like, yes, it's real. Believe me. Oh, my God. This is such insane times that we live in. Okay. So really quickly, I do want to highlight here that the Rockets do have two more matchups against both the Mavericks and the Lakers this season. Now, they have one Saturday, February 8th on the road against Dallas at 2 p.m., and then they face Dallas again Friday, March 14th at home. I don't know if we're going to get a full-blown look at the new-look Dallas Mavericks in this game coming up this upcoming weekend. Last I checked, AD was dealing with an abdominal kind of issue, so he might be out until post All-Star break, so we might not get a look at the new look Mavericks there. They do also have two more meetings against the Lakers at the very tail end of the season. They play the Lakers Monday, March 31st, and then again Friday, April 11th. That's the second to last game of the season. And assuming Luka suits up and the Lakers continue competing for a spot in the playoffs this year, then the Rockets will also get a look at Luka in purple and gold, which is going to be just super weird and all kinds of like strange to witness. But I will say just really quickly, kind of talked about all this stuff from the Mavericks front a lot. You know, I don't believe in this version of the Mavericks. Like, they'll still be really good with Anthony Davis, and he'll get to play the 4 alongside Lively and Gafford, and they've got a really stacked front court now, and you're going to have a backcourt of, you know, your starting lineup is literally Kyrie, Clay, PJ Washington, Anthony Davis, and then you've got that two-headed dragon of Gafford, Lively at the 5 spot, plus all the other rotation players they have. Like, the Mavs are still a very, very good team, but Kyrie Irving is not a 1A facilitator. He's not. Like, they brought him in to be a secondary facilitator alongside Luka. And Klay Thompson is getting a little long in the tooth, right? And Anthony Davis has proven that he is not the guy that you can just hand the ball to and say, go create offense. Like, Anthony Davis is better served playing off of a primary, which is the whole reason that he forced his way out of New Orleans, because he couldn't carry a Pelicans team despite how many good pieces that they had tried to put around him over the years. He couldn't do it in New Orleans as the number one guy. He's much better suited. Some guys, even though they have all the talent in the world, they're just better as a Robin than a Batman. And Kyrie and AD have proven that time and time again over the years, that they are better playing off of a true primary option. So I don't believe in this Mavs team. And I think that's one less true contender to come out of the West. And I think that's less competition for the Rockets, honestly. Like, the Mavs were one of the teams that I was most scared of going into a 7-game playoff series if the Rockets and Mavs ever lined up, you know, on the same side of the bracket or had to face each other this postseason. I was a little scared of going up against a healthy Luka and a healthy Kyrie. And if that Mavs roster didn't have any, you know, glaring, you know, injuries or whatever, then I was kind of scared. Not really scared of them anymore. I don't think they have what it takes to win a 7-game series against the Rockets, personally. They still got a ton of talent, and maybe I'm completely like writing them off way too early before seeing it play out, but I just don't like the whole format and structure of their team, and I think it's going to fall apart in the postseason. We've seen AD fall apart in the postseason. We've seen Kyrie fall apart in the postseason, and yeah, so not scared of them. And then on the Lakers side of things, I feel like we're waiting on another shoe to drop, and that shoe, I think, is a LeBron James trade to the Golden State Warriors. Maybe I'm completely wrong here, but not that they can't coexist on the court together, but LeBron and Luka are so similar in how you want them to handle the game. And they're good enough. They're both insanely talented players that if they do share the court together at all this season, they'll figure it out. But they're only going to get like 80% of their like true potential by being paired together, as opposed to them each being in different situations or pairing different stars with them to really maximize the potential of one another. Like, LeBron is good enough that he can play off ball a little bit. He can set some screens, and Luka can spot up for some threes and whatnot while LeBron is creating. Like, it can work to an extent, but they're also both turnstiles defensively. Like, the Lakers have just lost all of their defense. They have no legitimate 5 on the roster. Like, their projected starting 5 is Jackson Hayes now. I don't know how you look at this situation if you're the Lakers and you're not absolutely blowing up the Warriors phone to say, hey, we know you're scared about going all in at the tail end of Steph's career. But I think the Warriors have kind of shown this season that, like, they have the juice to beat some of the best teams in the NBA. They've beaten the Thunder twice. If you could give the Warriors LeBron and pair essentially Steph, LeBron, Draymond, and still hold on to like a couple ancillary pieces, right, without giving up the farm, but you give up, you know, like a bunch of the young guys, bunch of future draft capital, all that, to literally have like one last rodeo, two last chances at it, right? You get one crack at it this season, which the Warriors are tied for 10th in the Western Conference with the Kings, and the Kings have the tiebreaker right now, I guess, so they're technically in that 10th spot, and Golden State's in the 11th spot. But you go all in, you pair LeBron and Steph together, you keep Draymond, you keep a couple of the other ancillary pieces like Looney, maybe you're able to keep Wiggins in a potential deal. I really don't know how it would work money-wise for Golden State at this point, but there were rumors, right, about the idea of Steph and LeBron maybe trying to team up before their careers came to an end, whether it was Steph to LA or LeBron to Golden State. And it seems like even more of a possibility now because, let's be honest, the Lakers are sitting at 5th in the West right now, but their roster, they don't have a functional roster right now. What are you going to do if you're LA? Are you really going to trot LeBron and Luka out at the same time? It'd be insane for ticket sales and jersey sales and all that stuff, but like, that's not a functional roster. It's not. So if you want like any semblance of trying to compete soon, even a trade with the Warriors right now this season isn't going to make you a whole team. It'll kind of, you can fill in some of the gaps and maybe get some parts and maybe wheel and deal before the trade deadline to try and make something happen. But I kind of think that's short-sighted. If I was the Lakers right now, if I was Rob Pelinka, first off, you just pulled off the heist of like, not even just the decade, like the heist of the century. Literally one of the, from the Mavericks perspective, I think the worst trade in all of sports history ever. Not a hyperbole. At that point, rest on your laurels, trade LeBron to the Warriors, recoup as much value as you can, and then just pump the brakes on this season. Maybe enjoy the rest of the season. Maybe let Luka compete, whatever, but like let him prioritize his health, right? His rehab, get him 100% for next year, and then make the subsequent moves that you need this offseason and over the, up until and including the trade deadline this year to put yourself in the best position to succeed down the line. Because this Lakers team does not have a true title window anymore this year. Like, you're not going to sit here and convince me that like Luka and LeBron are headed for a title this season. It's not going to happen. They're not complementary players. They don't fit very well, and they don't have a functional roster outside of those two. Like, they're missing a ton of key pieces. So I think a LeBron James trade is probably still in the works for this Lakers team. I'd be shocked if they ran it out, because here's the other thing is if they don't trade LeBron at the deadline, then maybe you're looking at trading him in the offseason. But at this point, LeBron's got 2 years left on his deal. He's got this year, he's got next year. He already accomplished the goal that he stated, which was to play basketball alongside his son. Check mark, bucket list, done. All that's left for LeBron James is to do his farewell tour, right? Kobe Bryant had a farewell tour. You can bet your ass LeBron James is going to have a farewell tour on whatever team he's with. And whatever team is giving LeBron James that farewell tour is not going to be in a position to really be legitimately competing for a title. At least I don't think so, right? Like, it's, because LeBron's going to want to prioritize all the novelty, and he's going to be wanting to, take all the fame, all the glamour. He's going to want all eyes on him during that farewell tour. And I think he had every intent of it being in Lakers purple and gold, especially with as things were kind of downtrending and kind of becoming worse for wear, and the Lakers kind of underachieving for the past couple seasons. So I'm sure he was just like, all right, yeah, I'll do my last season and I'll go around, city to city, thank all the fans, all that stuff, have all the glitz and the glamour of what's going on with a farewell tour, just like Kobe did. Jersey swapping every night with this, closest friend of the opposing team or the iconic player of the opposing team, whatever. I don't think the Lakers want that if they're legitimately trying to compete with Luka. So I'd be shocked if we didn't. Let me rephrase. Not that I wouldn't be shocked if we didn't see a LeBron trade, but I feel like LA's got to be working on something behind the scenes to facilitate another move. I don't think LA's done, honestly, at this point. Maybe it's a mistake to punt on their season. Who knows? I think I've gotten all my thoughts out as it relates to the Rockets. And hey, look, we thought that the Rockets were going to have this like insanely stacked division for the next 10 plus years with Wemby in San Antonio and Luka in Dallas and Ja and Triple J in Memphis and Zion in New Orleans. Well, first off, the Zion and New Orleans situation has basically gone up in flames, so you don't have to worry about the Pels. And now Dallas is going to fade out of relevancy, and we don't have to worry about Luka in this division anymore. So it looks like it's down to just what's going to be the Rockets, the Grizzlies atop the division. And look, unfortunately, I hate to admit it, the Spurs are going to be there sooner rather than later with Wemby as he continues to ascend, into what is going to be, unfortunately, a year in, year out superstar player. But that's a lot better than having to deal with 5 legitimate playoff caliber teams every year. You're down to probably only 3 legitimate playoff caliber teams for the next, however many years. And again, Dallas will still be good to an extent, but they're going to fade out of relevancy pretty quickly here. So I want your thoughts on everything we talked about. Give me your reaction to all this. I'm still kind of reeling from it. So is the entire NBA world. We're going to have such wide sweeping ramifications from this trade. I am truly curious to see how it all ultimately unfolds and plays out. But give me your thoughts. Remember, the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every single day on a podcast platform of your choosing. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Drop us the comments while you're there. Subscribe to the daily Locked On Rockets newsletter. But as always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And we look forward to having you back right here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball.